We have Patrick Njoroge, the Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. Thank you for joining us. And we shall have a conversation in small bits. First, we'll have the initial one, then we shall pick it up later on. And Governor, thank you for joining us first and foremost.
Thank you, Dan.
Now, as at June 1st, when the announcement was made, there were 217.6 million pieces of the old series 1,000 shilling notes in circulation. By end of August, the report is that it was at 100 million pieces had been received. That means there's a balance of 117.6. Where are we now on this specific day, 25th of September 2019?
Thanks, Dan. Actually, the number that I mentioned then on interview was over 100 million. But at this moment, I think I would rather not reveal a specific number because we'll have them in less than a week. On October 1, I will have all the precise numbers. But I would just say, Dan, that the demonetization is going very well. There has been some hiccups, but I think those have been taken care of quickly and effectively. We've also had a very strong campaign in terms of public awareness. But I think in terms of the returns that are coming in, a lot of them are small transactions or small amounts. For instance, more than almost 60% of the transactions in value have been less than $500,000 cash. That is, small bundles of cash, 10K, and so forth. And less than $1 million, we've had something like 3/4, basically, about 3/4 of the transactions are less than $1 million. But I'll have all the complete numbers when we close. And therefore, on October 1, I'll have very precise numbers.
All right. But do you have any kind of indication of where we are? Are we doing well in terms of the returns? Are we at a percentage that's over, 60% or 70%?
We are well over 70%. We are well over 70%. But I think the point here is, given the way the vagaries of, let's say, how our people transact, meaning at times they may delay, and on a particular day you could have a lot. I don't think that's the case. As a matter of fact, we've had a decline. The highest amount of transactions took place in June, actually. And now, actually, it's less than half on a weekly basis, less than half what we saw back in June. But I think from our perspective, I would really be much more comfortable giving you precise numbers. They'll be precise to the last 1,000 on October 1.
Okay, that should be next week on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
And Governor, one of the concerns that has been raised is not just it's one concern that has many facets to it, is the cutoff date, which is Monday, the end of this month. Now, one of the things is we are seeing companies giving themselves what seem to be their own cutoff dates. We're seeing supermarkets or retailers at large. We're seeing mobile money service providers. And this leaves customers in a sort of predicament of sorts because this money is legal tender until end of Monday. So when I go on Monday and some supermarket tells me they can't take my money, there seems to be a legal minefield there. How do we address this?
Dan, I think the first one is, yes, the currency, the old series 1,000 will still be legal tender until end of September, which is Monday next week. But I think the point here is that it would be a bit interesting, to say the least, if you are still holding your 1,000. It's so easy to change your old series 1,000. So my point here would be, yes, it's important for you to change into the new currency, the new 1,000s, and it's so easy. So just make an effort. You have a few days to go.
There's
now,
someone who
the point also has to be that the various, let's say, transactors, the supermarkets and things like that, they will have arrangements with their banks. They should make arrangements directly with their banks to be sure that whatever they collect can actually be banked and given value to them. So I think those are the two important things for me to
What they're doing, is it right?
I don't want to get into the legal minefield, as you yourself said.
But that is what Mwananchi is worrying about, because someone may say, I've got a few, 5,000 shillings, which I know then I can spend on my shopping and I might manage to shop on Monday.
I would strongly encourage him to stop by a bank. Let him go by a bank, change the 1000s into the new generation 1000. I think the most important thing is to focus on what is important for you. And what is most important for a lot of our citizens is really to have the new generation currency, or to actually get out of the old generation currency. We've had 117 days so far. And for the entire operation, we had 122 days. And I think we've looked around, and actually the 1000s, the old generation 1000, have really dwindled in circulation. There are very few places that actually you can see the old 1000s still revolving or still moving around a Tristan back. So I think my point here is to stress the need for conversion and to again encourage the merchants to work closely with their banks, because at the end of the day, whatever they get, whatever day it is, needs to be put into the banking system if indeed they are going to get the value for it.
Okay, but that's all well and good, but that still does not respond to the concern that is what they are doing legal, because then we may encourage people to go and change their money as soon as possible, but legally they're covered until the very last minute.
That's what.
So are the merchants doing anything wrong?
I don't know about wrong or legality and things like that, because that is really not something that I would say I want to opine about. So I would stick to the encouraging everybody to change their currency as soon as they can. There's still time to do it. If you actually happen to have currency, you still can go, you have a few days to go, you can still go to a bank and have it changed.
Okay, and there's money that has been seized, say by police, and it's been held as exhibit, be it by the DCI or by a police, let me put it generally as police, or at the courts. What happens to this money? For instance, Dan is arrested and has some money that they thought is probably as a result of illegal money or illegal operations, and I'm arrested today, it's legal, and by Wednesday it's found to be clean money. What happens? Because now it's useless paper.
Yes, we've been working with the investigative agencies, the various agencies that do these things, DCI, the police, obviously the DPP, the Office of the Prosecutor, Public Prosecutor, also working with the judiciary to ensure that we can, for monies that have actually been seized, exhibits, and they're in the court process, in the court processes. We have an arrangement, and we've already done this almost completely now, of converting it into new currency.
Would that be considered as interfering with evidence?
No, obviously this has been done correctly, meaning the appropriate courts have been appraised of this and they have signed off on it. So it has been done correctly. And the evidence is still, will be provided to the court, and the court knows how there's agreement as to how that evidence will be provided to the courts. Our point is we have provided that opportunity to preserve the value. And again, as I'm saying, they have already used this possibility of preserving the value. So at the end of the process, whoever wins that case, there'll still be value that they can actually obtain at the end of the process. It's also important to add that in the prisons, you also have a similar operation where, say, when a prisoner is taken in and he or she has money in their person, that money is held for them by the prison department. And so what we've done is we've worked with the prisons department to also preserve the value of those 1,000 notes, so that when the prisoner is released, they will get full value of what they had before.
Okay, and one of the concerns that has come up is about especially the people in the rural areas. And yes, we've seen you do some a number of tours. You've toured a number of the far-flung areas just to try and address the issue to those who may not have been reached by some of the mainstream platforms. You've been on radio stations, for instance, but we're still seeing you find people saying, say, my grandmother has, say, 3,000 bob, but after being pushed, you find another 50,000 bob that was kept there. Do you feel you've done enough sensitization to ensure that all these people can actually do the exchange in good time?
Yeah, without a doubt. This was one of the things that we went, I would say, full throttle, full blast, in terms of making the information known to the people in the rural areas, deep in the rural areas, mashinani huko. So, and I think we used all channels, all available channels, not just radio. We are very heavy in the radios, in the radio waves. Again, targeted to the rural areas, and we'll say the far-flung areas, not just the ones that are close to the main cities and so forth. And we used other things. We had barazas. I participated in a baraza, for instance, in Garissa, and also worked with the chiefs, the assistant chiefs, the DCs. We put posters in schools. We put posters in the markets, in the small places all over. So we believe that the information is there. However, at the same time, we know that I mean, this happens in every family, that there are people who are less able to, let's say, deal with that sort of information. And it's our business, meaning we as citizens, we as family members, to work with other members of our family. So for those of us, for instance, that have parents or grandparents and then out there, it is important that we check on them and ask them whether they've converted their money, and that as much as we can to go and help them sort of locate. They may have, as you said, they may have hidden some other 30,000 somewhere, and it may be there, it may have been there for a couple of years for all we know. So it is our business to help them. And okay, I think that is the way I would encourage everybody to give a call to their families, give a call to people that you depend on you, and make sure that they have done a thorough job of locating whatever currencies they've hidden.
Okay, and when it comes to, for instance, yesterday the central bank raised concern about the wheat payments in Narok, that it was likely that this was, money trying to be cleaned, so to speak. When you have, you monitor through various agencies, I believe. Have you gotten any concerns, for instance, about like the church money contributions being given by politicians? Because that was one of the concerns that was, in the general public, that politicians or people of influence, of means, may try and clean their money by giving such donations. Has any kind of concern like that come to you?
Those concerns have been there. I think those concerns have been with us for several years now, definitely since the elections. But I think the point for us is, yes, we have been dealing with that. There are a lot of things that obviously we are less public about in terms of what is happening, because the investigative agencies are there. But I think the stories are there. The Narok incident is actually was a bit worrisome because it happened rather quickly. And
how much money are we talking about?
I don't think I can reveal those numbers at this moment. Let the investigations continue, and we'll see where it is. But I think the point here is that there is a lot of stock of wheat. This is the harvesting season, and so there were, let's say, trucks and people from other parts that generally don't trade in that area, and so that's why I would want to say, at least on national TV.
Oh, but yeah, we can talk about it afterwards. But are you going to also reveal some of this information on Tuesday when you're giving the actual
Not
numbers?
all of it, because some of these are actually live investigations and they're still there. As I mentioned before in previous interviews, these investigations will not end on September 30th. They will continue. There are those that have actually been, let's say, been misusing our currency in particular ways, as I said, even illicit flows basically, and corruption and things like that. So I think the point here is that it doesn't end on September 30th, and that will continue. And
okay. Sorry, and just in closing, because we really need to come to a close, is that we've seen the shilling coming under some pressure, touching lows of 104 against the USD. Could there be any effect of people now moving to dealing with the dollars and the likes because of trying to avoid the use of the shilling?
When we started this process, there was a lot of speculation. And then the one that was most, was raised very loudly was precisely the channel you mentioned, that this will mean weakening of our shilling as everybody rushes to the exits. And that was not the case. The reason is we have been, a key pillar of this whole operation is having strong anti-money laundering and procedures, which the banks are using. So if you want US dollars or whatever the foreign currency, you have to satisfy certain hoops and certain requirements. And you cannot just bring a load of money to a bank and say, give me the equivalent in US dollars. You have to go through those channels. And that has been very effective. As you recall, some time ago, they were less effective, and this has become even more effective. So in a sense, we sealed those exits, even the Forex bureaus. And what is more is we've been getting weekly reports on what is happening in general and daily reports on other things. So you know exactly what a bank is doing. And when we have seen transactions that are questionable, we've gone to those institutions and done a targeted inspection, and actually understood what is happening. And when we have not understood, we've actually penalized them appropriately. So that has been very tight. So the shilling, the movement in the shilling was actually due to other factors.
So we cannot attribute it to the demonetization?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, the Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. And just to give better context in regards to the whole issue of withdrawing the old series 1,000 shilling note. Thank you for speaking to us. And the things that you said you can't see on national live TV, you shall tell us afterwards, and we'll know how to sneak it into our stories.